Go ahead and get started with today's Fundamental of Finance series. This is series number 5, and today I am going to be discussing hiring your children. So, a little bit about me. I'm the founder of iTax Solutions and iTax Institute. I launched a mobile tax preparation business in 2009 that has now grown into a 7-figure firm. In 2019, I founded iTax Institute, and to date, I have trained over 500 entrepreneurs in launching a tax preparation business. Um, I earned my bachelor's degree in 2010 from the University of Texas at Arlington. I earned my master's degree in business from Texas Women's University in 2012, and I received a doctorate in humanitarianism and a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award in 2023. And I am dedicated to uplifting others through financial education, business coaching, philanthropy, and much more. So, if this is your first time here, you may be wondering, what is the Fundamentals of Finance series? The Fundamental of Finance series is a free webinar series I designed to educate taxpayers and small business owners navigate essential topics like taxes, business structure, funding, financing, and bookkeeping. I'm sharing what I've learned over 20 years as a business owner as well as a tax professional. If you find this information successful, be sure to pass it along to a friend, family member, or colleague who might benefit as well. Who is the Fundamentals of Finance series for? This series is for anyone, whether you're a taxpayer, a small business owner, or just someone looking to pick up the financial knowledge that they did not teach us in school, but we all know once we're out here adulting is absolutely essential. I'm not expecting you to leave any of these series as a tax expert or a business funding wizard. This is more about giving you the core knowledge you need to feel more empowered when it comes to your finances. And if there's anything unclear, or you have any questions, I'm here to help. What should you bring to the Fundamentals of Finance series? It's simple. Just bring something to write with so you can take notes and refer back to them later. And come ready to learn with an open mind. We're here to make things practical and easy to understand. What is the objective of the Fundamentals of Finance series? The objective here is pretty simple: to provide clear, accessible education on topics like taxes, business funding, and investments through a series of webinars. We're going to tackle a range of topics that would be helpful for anyone managing their own finances or running a small business. As the series progresses, I'll also be bringing in guest experts who are experts in areas beyond my own specialty. So you'll have a chance to hear from other professionals who can offer new perspectives and deeper insights. When is the Fundamentals of Finance series? We're live every other Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time. So mark your calendar and join us for the next session. If you can't make it to the live webinar, no worries. Be sure to follow my YouTube channel so you can catch up at any time, or if you need to watch the replay, or if you want to share it with somebody else. So be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search my name and you'll see it there. So, just a few house rules before we get started. 1, please keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking. 2, avoid using offensive or discriminatory language. 3, if you have any technical issues, please use the chat to report them. 4, questions will be answered at the end of the presentation, so be sure to just write those down, or you can put them in the chat, and again, I'll answer those questions at the end of the presentation. Lastly, be sure to have your notebook ready to take notes. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This is one of my favorite topics, to be honest with you, how to hire your child and make it a tax deduction. So this is actually something that I've implemented with my business and with my child. So again, any questions that you have, be sure to jot them down, and we will have an open Q&A at the end. So one of the best kept income shifting tax saving secrets entrepreneurs have been leveraging for years is paying their child to work in their business for tax savings. So here, this is exactly what it says from the IRS code, right? So directly from the irs.gov website, this is a screenshot from the website that tells you one of the advantages of operating your own business is hiring family members. However, employment tax requirements for family employees may vary from those that apply to other employees. The following information may assist you with pointing out some differences to consider. So, child employed by parents. Payments for the services of a child under age 18 who works for his or her parent in a trade or business are not subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes if the trade or business is a sole proprietorship or a partnership in which each partner is a parent of the child. Refer to covered services of a child section below. Payments for the services of a child under age 21 who works for his or her parent in a trade or business are not subject to FUTA tax. Payment for the services of a child are subject to income tax withholding regardless of age. So basically what that is saying is if you have your own business, right, you can actually hire family members. Now, in this particular series, we're going to focus more on hiring children. However, family members consist of a spouse. If you don't have children, maybe you can hire your nieces and nephews. It also consists of parents as well, okay? Siblings also, okay? So you can hire your family members in your business and you can write this off as a deduction, right? Because it doesn't matter whether you're paying a family member or you're paying someone virtually or a contractor or a W-2 employee, right? As a business owner, we're going to write off those expenses. So in this particular series, what I'm basically talking to everyone about and wanting to bring more awareness to is being able to deduct this, lower your tax liability, and also still take care of your family members. Next slide, please. So why are people hesitant to implement this tax saving strategy? One, a lot of people don't know how to do it correctly. Two, they don't have the correct information. Or three, not enough tax professionals are educating and implementing this tax strategy for their clients. So again, in this series, I'm going to teach you how to do this correctly and DIY it so your expenses are very low and having to take care of this. All right. So y'all know I like to ball on a budget. So to know me is know I'm always going to find the way of doing some things kind of free. And unless I have to pay for some type of service or subscription, I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to show you how you can do this all by yourself. So in the chat, let me know if you have a child or if you have children. Just put yes or no, which I'm sure most of you do if y'all are here getting this information. So I'm actually going to pull up the chat so I can see it as well. Okay, yes. Okay, a bunch of yeses. So if you answered yes to that question, my next question is, do you own a profitable business? So when we talk about a business being profitable, that means, let's just say for the year 2024, you had over, $40,000 in sales. Of course, any business owner is going to have some expenses. Maybe you had about $10,000, $12,000 worth of expenses. So let's just say for round number purposes, you made 40 grand. You had $10,000 in expenses. So that means that your business profited $30,000. So with that being said, you have to make sure that your business is profitable and you're showing a profit with your business. So next slide, please. So I want to go over a few things with you. The federal standard deduction. Now in 2023, that amount was $13,850. In 2024, it's $14,600. And in 2025, that amount is $15,000. Now, I know a lot of people in the past have seen videos on Instagram and TikTok. They're like, hey, you can pay your kid up to $12,000 and write it off on your taxes, right? Well, the reality of it is that you can pay your children up to the standard deduction for that tax year. So if you see anybody that says, hey, you can pay your kid up to $12,000, you can actually pay them up to the amount of the standard deduction for that tax year. So if you decided to pay your children in 2024, the maximum amount that you can pay each child is $14,600. Now, of course, if you have more than one child and your business is showing a profit, then you can pay each child $14,600. So in 2025, what you'll probably start seeing circulate around the internet is that you can pay your child up to $15,000. So these amounts are very, very important. So make sure you remember for 2024, the federal standard deduction is $14,600, and for 2025, the federal standard deduction is $15,000. So what does that mean? Taxpayers can employ or hire their children and pay them up to that amount. Sorry. Let's go back one slide. So what does that mean? Taxpayers can employ or hire their children and pay them up to the standard deduction amount without the child having to file a federal tax return. So if you pay your child less than that amount or that exact amount, then they don't have to file a federal tax return. However, state taxes will apply, and I'll go over how that works. So based on the state that you're in, each state has different standard deductions. Okay, I'm in Texas, so we don't have any state taxes, but here's just a brief summary of different states that have state taxes and what the standard deduction amount is. So we'll just go through those. So if you see your state, feel free to, take a screenshot because this amount is important. Now, for all of these states, we don't have these exact amounts for 2025. However, you can Google this information and you can simply put in your state and you can see what that standard deduction amount is. So let's just go to the next slide. So if you live in the state of Georgia or somewhere else, then again, you can Google what that amount is for 2025. So here's just briefly what Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky. So you see that in some of these states, like for instance, in Georgia in 2023, it was 5,400. Well, in 2024, the amount is 12,000. So some of these states, they're increasing significantly. Some you'll see stay around the same amount and others. Okay, next slide, please. Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Oregon, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, Wisconsin. So here's the example. So for instance, Georgia in 2024, the standard deduction is $12,000. Okay, so in 2024, the federal standard deduction is $14,600. So here in this example, Calvin lives in Georgia. His 16-year-old daughter manages his social media accounts for his consulting business. He paid her a total of $14,000 in 2024. So I want you to remember that the single standard deduction for the state of Georgia is $12,000 and the federal standard deduction is $14,600 for 2024. So how much of her total income will be taxed on the federal level? So again, he paid her $14,000 and the federal standard deduction is $14,600. So he paid her less than the standard deduction for 2024. So let's see in the chat. Okay, I see 0. That is correct. 0 is absolutely correct. So considering the taxpayer, Calvin paid his daughter under the standard deduction for 2024 on the federal level, the daughter is not going to be taxed on any of that income. Okay, next slide. So the next question, how much of our income will be taxed on the state level? So again, the state standard deduction for Georgia in 2024 is $12,000. He paid her $14,000. So we'll subtract 14,000 minus 12,000, which is $2,000. So $2,000, only $2,000 of the 14,000 that he paid his child will be taxed on the state level. So all they have to do is file a state tax return for the child, and the parent can actually gift the child the amount of taxes that are due, because there will be taxes that will be due on the state level. Not very much. But if you do have taxes that are due on the state level, make sure you go ahead and pay those and get those out the way, because we all know if you don't pay them, you will be penalized. There will be interest and penalties that will accrue. But that's not a bad, situation. If you're paying your child $14,000, you're only taxed on 2 grand, you may pay $200 at most. Next slide. So here is just a picture that kind of shows you, okay, well, hey, if you're a sole proprietor, for instance, if you have a business, but maybe you have not incorporated your business with your Secretary of State, right? Maybe you do Uber or whatever it is that you do, right? If you don't have an LLC, that's okay. You can still pay your child up to the standard deduction. I don't want anybody to think that if the child is under the age of 18, that you have to have an LLC. You don't have to have an LLC if the child is under the age of 18, okay? Now, whether you have an LLC or you do not have an LLC, this wage that you're paying your child, or this amount that you're paying your child, is going to be reported on your Schedule C. So on your Schedule C, you'll show your profit for your business or the income for your business. It'll show your expenses, and your expenses will include you paying your child whatever amount that you decide to pay them. And again, for 2024, the max is $14,600. If your business does not allow you to pay your child that much, that's perfectly fine. Okay. And we'll go into that a little bit more. Now, in the event that maybe you have rental properties, right? And you are filing a Schedule E. That's where you report the income and the expenses for a rental property, right? Or any royalties or anything like that that you receive. You can also pay your child that's under the age of 18, even if you don't have, an LLC, an official LLC with the Secretary of State. You can still pay your child that's under the age of 18, and you can write that off as an expense. So this is important. So when you're paying your children under the age of 18, whether you have an LLC or not, that's fine. I always suggest business owners to, make sure everything is in order. Get your LLC, get your EIN number, your business bank account, keep up with everything as far as like bookkeeping, your expenses, all of that good stuff. So you want to make sure you have that LLC. You're going to file a Schedule C, right? You're going to contact your tax professional, let them know, okay, hey, I'm a business owner. Here's my business information. Here's my income. Here are my expenses. I did pay my child. If you're filing a Schedule E, if you're into rental investments, then you would file a Schedule E. On page 2 of the Schedule C or E, there's an area that says other expenses. And what I typically do for my clients is we categorize that as outside labor. Okay. Now, of course, as a business owner, you want to make sure that you keep up with all of that, right? I know when I first started paying my daughter, I was just writing out paper checks, right? I was writing out paper checks, and I was keeping up with those paper checks. I would make sure that, I was making copies of them, keeping up with, her job description, the hours that she was working, all of that good stuff. So if you're going to simply write out some paper checks, then make sure you just keep copies of everything. All right. And I want to remind you guys that by law, you should keep your records for 3 years, just in case the IRS decides that, they want to audit you or they have questions about anything. So so for tax professionals, you can zero out the Schedule C, but that's a whole nother conversation. Again, if the child is under the age of 18, there's no need to issue a W-2. You don't have to issue a 1099 either. You don't require any payroll services, and you have to make sure that this income is deposited into the minor's bank account. So when you're writing that check out from your business account to your child, right? And you always want to make sure that you have those checks and balances. That's why I say create the LLC, get the business bank account, get the EIN number, do all of that stuff properly. You want to show that the income is being deposited into the minor's account. So it has to go from the business to the minor's account. And of course, anybody who gets paid, if you're working, a job, that once your pay is in your bank account, you can spend your money however it is that you want to spend your money. Okay. So we'll go into more detail how that can be done, and what expenses can be covered for the children. And of course, the business gets a write-off. Next slide. So now we're going to take a look at paying children over the age of 18. So once my daughter reached over the age of 18, you have to make a decision whether you're going to issue a 1099 or a W-2. That can actually be based off the amount that you pay them. I personally issued her a W-2. There weren't any, I issued her a W-2, right? And so once I started issuing her a W-2, that means that she now had to file a tax return, okay? So whether you have a business with a Schedule C or you have a Schedule E where you have like an investment property or a rental property or whatever, you can still write that off for paying your child that is over the age of 18. But again, you do have to decide if you want to issue a W-2 or if you want to issue a 1099. Now, from a tax professional standpoint, if you issue a 1099, what happens is the taxpayer or the child is going to automatically have some type of taxes that are going to be due. So at that point, what you have to do is you have to zero out that Schedule C and, write off some expenses. I don't want to confuse anybody here too much, but I personally, like I said, I issued my daughter out a W-2. I felt like that was the easiest thing. Also, once I started doing that, I think I started using a website called Gusto. And I'll show you guys that website later on. But Gusto was really good because what I was able to do was I was able to actually put her on payroll and say, okay, well, hey, every week. So I decided that I was going to pay her every single week. And I think I paid her like $250 or like $300 every single week. So now Gusto, what they will do, now you do have to pay for it, okay? They actually send those reports. You can go to the next slide, Tony. They actually send those reports to the places that they need to go. All right. So the reports that you have to send over to the federal, to the IRS, they send those over. The 940s and the 941s, they send those over. So you don't have to worry about that. But again, y'all, you do have to pay for Gusto. In this particular Fundamentals of Finance series, I am showing you how to actually do this free of charge, completely 100% DIY. So if the child is over age 18, you want to issue them a 1099. If they qualify as a subcontractor, issue them a W-2 if they are treated like an employee. So if they actually have a schedule, so the difference between a subcontractor and an employee has an actual schedule. A subcontractor kind of works, at their leisure. They don't have a set schedule. So make sure that you're able to differentiate based on your child's position within your company if they have a set schedule or not. Also, when you issue them a W-2, they're no longer exempt from FICA, and you must withhold those Social Security and Medicare taxes. So when I issue her out that W-2, you can actually see where those things are being taken out from the pay. There's no family management company necessary over the age of 18. And you also want to think about adding your children to the board of directors or your board of advisors. So once my daughter became an employee of my business, anytime we went out to eat, if we talked about business, it's a business expense. I can write that off. If we go out of town and we travel, if we're doing content or we're having a business meeting or we're meeting with some potential clients, anything of that sort, because she is my employee, then we can actually write this off as a business expense. So this can be very beneficial, especially if you're married, for your spouse, right? If you want to employ your spouse in your business, employ all of your children, employ your parents into your business. So now when you take that family vacation, instead of it being a family vacation, right? Maybe your board of directors are meeting in the Bahamas, or maybe your board of directors, which consists of your husband, your children, your parents, your siblings, are meeting in Paris, right? If you're having a meeting, or for instance, this Thanksgiving, right? We are having a Thanksgiving family dinner. And so my family doesn't know this yet, but I'm actually going to put together an entire presentation about finances. Um, and I'm going to present this to my family, and my daughter's going to help me as well. And guess what? We're going to be able to write off our complete Thanksgiving dinner as a business expense, because now we're talking to potential clients and my daughter is helping me. Okay, she's an employee. So you got to think smart, and you have to figure out honestly how to take your business and tie it into your life and make it a business tax deduction. Like everything that I do, I find some kind of way to tie it into my business and deduct it from my business, to tie it into my business and take it as a business deduction or write it off as an expense. Next slide. I'm sorry, why are you considering hiring your children? So, some reasons to hire your children include trust and loyalty, a shared vision, familiarity and understanding, flexibility and reliability. It's very cost effective, because sometimes we can pay our children or a little bit less than maybe hiring another individual. Close collaboration. I think that's really important. Just being able to share an experience with your child, like, hey, you know what? This is what mom does. This is what dad does. You know, this is important. And sometimes our children don't always, follow in our footsteps. I don't think it's always necessarily to get your children to do exactly what it is that you're doing, but at least they understand business and understand, like, you have to make certain types of decisions when you're a business owner and you're a CEO and you're being a leader. So I think that is very important. Personal investment, salary deductions, retirement contributions. I don't really have any slides about this, but I'm going to touch on it really quick. So, when you employ your children, what you can also do, let's just say, for instance, for 2025, right? You start paying your kid, the standard deduction is $15,000. What you can actually do is you can take some of that money and you can roll it over into a Roth account, right? So now you're paying your child some of this money, but the other part of this money is going into a Roth account. It's gaining interest. You're thinking about your child's future. So you don't have to necessarily take all of that money, put it into your kids, checking or savings account, and they spend it, right? Or, yeah, basically they spend it. But you can also invest. So make sure you think about that. Medical benefits, and of course, one of the most important things, which is why we're all here, is showing how we can shift the income to put us in a lower tax bracket and to reduce our tax liability. Why did I make the choice to hire my child? Teaching her responsibility, teaching her money management skills, which she's 20, I'm still working on that. Teaching my child about entrepreneurship. I'm definitely grateful for that. She's 100% an entrepreneur, I guess, for the most part. She's a full-time student, and she's also a real estate agent. So I never expected her to go into taxes. I showed her taxes when she was younger and she hated it. So that's why I say don't, bank on these kids wanting to do exactly what it is that you're doing. But she definitely saw the decisions that I had to make. And of course, most importantly, generational wealth and a business tax deduction. Questions to ask yourself when considering hiring your children. Think about, what are my child's strengths? What are my child's weaknesses? Is my child presently helping me with the business? What is my child good at? Is my child interested in being an entrepreneur, or what is their potential career path? These are all very important. These questions will help you to understand or decide what type of position your child should have within your company, or what responsibilities. So here are just a few, I call them the 10 M's. When hiring your child, one, you must have a legal business structure on file with the Secretary of State, which I strongly suggest. Again, if they're under the age of 18 and you don't have it, you're good. But if they're over the age of 18, you definitely need to have it. And again, I say you should just have it anyways, right? Because when it comes to building that business credit and getting that business funding, which is something that we're going to go over in another series of fundamentals of finance, you're going to want to have your stuff together. 2, you must have an EIN registered with the IRS. 3, must have biological children under the age of 17 years old. The child must have their own bank account that wages are deposited into. Again, that's very important. You can't tell the IRS, hey, I paid my kid, but they don't see the transfer of funds from the business account to the child, okay? Must be capable of doing the work, must pay child a reasonable amount for the work completed. You must distinguish work pay from an allowance, right? This amount that you're paying your child from your business is not their allowance for, doing their chores or anything like that. This is for them actually helping you and working in your business. You must have a written job description on file. You must keep detailed records of wages paid and duties performed. And lastly, you must complete all necessary business documentation and maintain records. On average, how much do you spend a month on your children for things outside of food, clothes, and housing expenses? Y'all tell me in the chat, how much money do these kids run you every single month? Oh my gosh. I only have one. I can only imagine having multiple children. I think God said, you know what? You can only afford one, Ambria. Just stick to the one that you have. So tell me in the chat, on average, how much do you spend on your children? Wow, close to $1,000. Yeah, outside of food, clothes, housing expenses, y'all. These kids have what? Extracurricular. They want to go hang out with their friends. They want to travel. I mean, it's just so much stuff. Y'all know they're always sending notices home. We need this money. We need that money. All of this kind of stuff, right? So let's go on to the next slide. So some acceptable expenses that the money can be spent on at the end of the day, once it's in your kid's account, right? You're the parent, right? You're the parent. So of course you can monitor what that money is spent on. So if you're already going to spend money on your kid going to a sports camp, why not hire your child into your business, pay the child, put that money in their bank account? Again, you're the parent, you're likely going to have access to that debit card. You can pay for that sports camp through that account. Now, if you don't hire your child, you can pay for that sports camp, but you're not going to be able to deduct it on your taxes. You would be paying for that sports camp directly. However, now you're shifting the income to your child and you're able to pay for sports camps, movies, prom expenses, extracurricular activities, swimming lessons, saving, investing for retirement, or if your child wants to start their own business, school clothes, whatever it is. Once that money is in that child's account, you can spend it on whatever it is that you want to. The good thing about it is that now you're able to deduct this on your taxes. Next slide. So you may be excited by now, like, hey, you know what, Ambria, I'm ready to hire my child. What's the next step? I'm ready to get the ball going. Let's get to it. So I'm going to tell you what needs to happen. So again, you want to make sure you establish your business structure with the Secretary of State. You can do this stuff yourself, guys. There's a website, I think it's called LLC University, and I teach this in my Tax Business Growth Accelerator course. Go to LLC University, y'all. They will literally basically walk you through kind of like how to, establish your business with the Secretary of State. You can also go on YouTube, y'all. There's so much information on YouTube. It's crazy. You should not be paying, what is it, LegalZoom or Ink File, all of that kind of stuff. You shouldn't be paying these services, paying these places to structure your business properly. All right. You can figure it out. I promise you. I figured mine out, and it's not that difficult. I promise you. Obtain an employer EIN number. This is free on the IRS website, irs.gov. It'll ask you a whole bunch of questions. they'll give you this form SS4, or do you complete form SS4? That number, that 800 number, I think that number is if you need to call the EIN department about something. Like sometimes people will have like an old EIN number and maybe they can't remember what the number is, or maybe you need another copy of it. You can always call that 800 number, 1-800-829-4933. And what they can do is they can actually fax you a copy of your original EIN letter. But I want you to know that if you get your EIN number from the IRS website, or when you get your EIN number from the website, you want to make sure that you are on a computer, okay? You don't want to do anything like this from your phone. At the end, they will ask you if you want to print it out or if they're gonna mail it to you, okay? You wanna go ahead and get it like in real time. So you tell them like you wanna print it out. I always take a picture of mine. When I'm starting a new business, I take a picture, I save it in my favorites on my phone, and I also save a PDF copy on my computer. Actually, I save it on multiple devices. My MacBook recently had to get swiped, so I'm so glad I had things also on my desktop as well. So make sure you have it in a couple of places just in case. Even when you're opening up your business bank account, you'll need to take that EIN documentation to the bank so that you can open up that account. All right. Also, make sure you open your child their own personal checking and or savings account. All right. That's very important so that they can see the transfer of money. Next, so if your child is over the age of 18, so once my daughter was over the age of 18, I actually had to register with the Texas Workforce Commission. So I had to register iTax Solutions with the Texas Workforce Commission, because now as an employer, I have to pay those taxes, right? And I have to report her wages to the state of Texas. All right. So make sure whatever state that you're in, that you Google your state name and maybe like, I don't know, the Workforce Commission, and take a look at that. That's really, really important, because you have to make sure you report those wages to the state. If not, they'll probably start sending you crazy letters saying that you owe them money. And also be very, very mindful, you have to pay those quarterly. All right. It only took a time or two for me to be late paying those. Um, I think the fees are like kind of ridiculous in the state of Texas. I think I had to end up paying like $200 or something like that. It was kind of crazy. So you want to make sure that you sign up for the notifications. So what I started doing was I signed up for the notifications, and now the workforce will send me an email and they'll say, hey, iTax Solutions, you need to, file for your quarterly employee wages. So it's really important that you do that. So make sure you do that. Also, be sure to follow all state labor laws. Be mindful of the, what is it called? The minimum wage in each state. Whatever state that you're in, take a look and, Google what that amount is. Whatever that minimum amount is, of course, you have to pay your child at least that amount. So be sure that you take a look at the minimum wage amount and you abide by all state labor laws, because some states will say, okay, well, a minor can't work more than this amount of hours. Next, what are some age-appropriate tasks for my children to complete for my business? Here's a list of age-appropriate tasks that may apply, that you may want to, have your kid doing. What I see a lot of people doing now, and you may have noticed. So I saw an article the other day. So Ace, I can't remember his name. I'm just gonna say Rihanna. I can't think of her husband's name, but Rihanna, she has her children like in her commercials and her ad campaigns now, right? So I think that it said that she paid her kid, like her kids got paid like a couple of $1 million for being in an ad campaign and for being in a commercial. So as a business owner, right? Let's just say maybe you're shooting an ad campaign or you're shooting a commercial for your business, or maybe you're getting some flyers printed out or some brochures. I mean, I don't know, doing some content, whatever the case may be. You can pay your children for that, right? Whether it is a newborn, right? It doesn't matter how old the child is. There's some gray area. Some people say, the child should be at least, 6 years old. Well, yeah, the child needs to be at least 6 years old if you're saying that the child is, filing paper or, filing paperwork or like helping you clean up or something like that. But whatever it is, just make sure that the tasks are age appropriate. Make it make sense, y'all. I say that all the time. Make it make sense. Next slide. How much should I pay my child? So, I think for a while, my daughter, she was my administrative assistant. So when I was trying to figure out, what amount I needed to pay her based on, the number of hours she was going to work, she really did, help me out a lot. You can do some research on these websites right here. You may find something there, you may not find something there, but again, y'all, I'm just gonna say this, make it make sense. You can't, pay your kid like $500 an hour to, do something outrageous or crazy. So yeah, do the research, make sure it makes sense. Again, the standard deduction for 2025, if you're looking to maximize paying your child in 2025, here's a brief breakdown. So let's just say you pay them all 12 months. This is something that you're going to start in January, right? You're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to start paying my kid in 2025. My business is profitable. That would be around $1,250 per month. All right. So if you break that down into weeks, that's about $312.50 per week. And if you take a look at how many hours, of course, these are children, right? They're not going to work 40 hours a week. They may work, 10 to 20 hours per week. So that would average around $15 per hour. All right. So make sure that when you are, sending your kid this offer letter, and I'll go into that in a moment. When it comes to the job description, again, this is if you want to maximize it. If your business does not allow you to pay your child the full $15,000 for the year, then that's perfectly fine. Now, I will say this, there are some people who will pay their children over this amount, right? You may be wondering, what if I want to make sure, oh, thank you so much for that. What if I want to pay my child over the $15,000, right? Now, if you want to pay your child over the $15,000, y'all, I'm not going to say it gets a little sticky, but you want to make sure you definitely have all your ducks in a row, and your child is definitely going to have to, file a tax return. You're going to want to make sure, let me just say this, you're going to want to make sure that you consult with a tax professional, because there's so many other things that are going to come along with you paying your child over $15,000 or whatever the standard deduction is. So just make sure, if you do decide to do something like that, to consult with a tax professional, because it's going to be based on the amount that you pay them, what job description, so many different things are going to come into play. So next slide. So again, if you decide, hey, you know what, I want to just pay a service to file, the necessary forms that need to be reported to the IRS, the 940 and the 941s, then you can use Gusto. Again, there is a fee for this. I know for Gusto, I pay myself and I pay my daughter as well. So for me, it's just, a fee every single month. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but there is a fee every single month. I have contractors as well. I will say this, y'all, as a business owner, right? You know, makeup artists or hairstylists, right? These are people that if you're a business owner, and let's just say you have a speaking event, or for instance, if you have a speaking event, right? Or maybe you're going to record some content, you can pay your photographer. You can deduct that. You can pay your makeup artist, right? Again, when it comes to clothing, people always ask about the clothing. If I can deduct my wardrobe, the only way you can actually deduct your wardrobe, as a tax deduction, is if you get your business logo embroidered on it. Okay, so you can go buy something really nice and really expensive if that's what you want to do, but you have to get that business logo or business name embroidered on it to actually write it off. So some things that are kind of, I'm not sure what paychecks is. I'll have to take a look at that. Next slide, Tony. Can I still claim my children as a dependent on my federal tax return if I hire them in my business? Absolutely. If you're paying them under that standard deduction amount, then you still can. I still, let me see, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, you can. So as long as you keep it under that amount, then you're good. All right. If you issue them out a W-2 and they're over the age of 18, then they can have their own personal tax return. What's important is that when the children file their own tax return, that they check the box, and the tax professional will, do this. I'm pretty sure they'll do their due diligence and ask you the correct questions. But you always have to check a box that says this person can be carried as a dependent on someone else's tax return. So not only do I, well, now that she's older, it's a little different, but you can still claim your children. And the fact that my daughter is still in college, that works out as well. With her being a real estate agent, of course, she has, she gets her commission from her real estate. She gets paid from my business as well, and she deducts all of her expenses for real estate. So make sure that you just keep up with all of that. If you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to shoot us an email if you're watching this video at a later time. But in just a moment, I'm going to open up for the live Q&A. Next slide, please. So when you're getting ready to hire your child, here's a brief checklist. Be sure to create a clear job description of the position and duties your child will perform. We've all had jobs, right? When we went to go interview for a job, guess what? There was a description, right? I think, is that what it's called? A description. Like there was a post like, hey, like this is the job that you're applying for. So once you decided to accept that job, they said, okay, well, hey, Ambria, your job is to do this. Here's a list of your duties that you're going to perform. You have to do the exact same thing with your child. And what this also does is help your child to understand once they enter the workforce, right? What they can look forward to, or if they're an entrepreneur, what they will look forward to when they are hiring individuals for their company. All right. Create an offer letter to send to your child. Again, when you're getting a job, this is what happens. They give you an offer letter, either you accept it or you don't accept it. So you want to keep track of all of this stuff, so that if the IRS says, hey, you know what, we're questioning, this deduction for $15,000 up. Wait a minute. I have a job description. I have an official offer letter, for my child that they accepted. You also want to complete an employee agreement outlining the job description, the date of hire, the amount of compensation, and their expected work hours. This is all very important. Y'all, this is really simple stuff, especially for this type of tax deduction. All right. Also, if the child is over the age of 18, you want to get them to complete that form I-9, which we all complete when we get a job, right? You want to keep it on file for at least 3 years. You want to have the child complete form W-4 and claim exempt so that you're not taking those taxes out. And again, you want to create a timesheet for the hours your child works daily. Next slide. So here are just a couple of kid-friendly bank accounts. Feel free to reach out to your current bank to open your child up a checking or savings account, or both, right? If you have a credit union, that's even better. But a couple of these financial institutions actually have free checking and savings accounts for children. Capital One does. Green light debit cards for kids. I think we've all seen those ads from them for a while. This is actually, they don't have an age requirement. And, parents can put those customizable controls like, okay, my kid can't spend this amount of money or this amount, or I think you have to approve it. So, there are also some financial literacy tools there available as well. So take a look at that. Always make the best decision. Do your research. I always tell people all the time, do your research, do your research. Next slide. And figure out what works best for you, your business, your family, your situation. All right, these are just suggestions. Also, Chase has a bank account for children as well from ages 6 to 17 years old, available to existing Chase customers. So I think you may have to have an account with Chase, and then your kid can open up an account with Chase. So make sure you always go for the free if possible. Okay. So now we are about to start our quizzes. So I want to test you guys' knowledge to see how much information you retain, as well as if I did my job by communicating this information to you. So be sure to put in the chat. We're going to go ahead and get started with the quiz. Question number 1, be sure to respond in the chat. Payments for the services of a child under age 18 who works for his or her parents in a trade or business are not subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes. Is this true or false? True or false? If the child is under age 18, are they subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes? Under the age of 18, y'all, do they have to pay taxes? Are these taxes gonna come out of the pay? So I see true in the chat, I see false in the chat. So the answer to this question, go back. So actually, the answer is false. I do apologize, but the answer is actually false. We'll have to correct this. I thought I proofread this, but the answer is false. So if they're under the age of 18, wait, hold on just a second. They're not subject to it. So no, so that is true. I think I'm confusing myself at this point. I always get confused with true or false questions. So true means yes and false means no. So are they subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes? They're not subject to it. And it says not. So the answer is true. Okay, y'all. I'm sorry. I confused myself right there. I was reading too fast. So the answer is true. So simply stated, if they're under the age of 18, you don't have to take out the Medicare and the Social Security taxes. Okay, next question. Okay, payments for the services of a child under age 21 who works for his or her parents in a trade or business are subject to FUTA taxes, true or false? So if they're over the age of 18, are they subject to the taxes, true or false? That was a trick question. I tricked myself on that one. Okay, so I see true in the chat. Next, the answer is false. The answer is false. Okay, next question. How much is the federal standard deduction for the year 2024? Now, this is what's important. All right. For 2024, what is the standard deduction for 2024? Is it A, 14,600, B, 16,200, C, 13,850, or D, 15,000? So we're talking about for 2024, y'all. So I see D in the chat. I see C in the chat. So 2024, what is the standard deduction? It's A, 14,600. So for 2024, it's 14,600. Now, let's go to the next question. How much is the federal standard deduction for 2025? Is it A, 14,600, B, 16,200, C, 13,850, or D, 15,000? I see D in the chat. D in the chat. Yes. For 2025, the maximum amount you can pay your child and deduct it from your taxes, and your child does not have to file a tax return, is $15,000. Next slide. When you're ready to hire your child, you need to open your child a personal checking and or savings account. Yes or no? See yes in the chat. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. The answer to that question is yes. That's important because, as a reminder, we have to have these funds showing that they're going from the business bank account to the child's personal bank account. And once it's in the child's personal bank account, you can spend it however it is that you want to, whether it's saving it, investing it, or spending it on, their expenses. Next, when must you report wages paid to employees to the state? Monthly, annually, quarterly, or every 6 months? Monthly, annually, quarterly, or every 6 months? I see C in the chat, quarterly. I see A in the chat, monthly. So the answer is C, quarterly. Um, Once you hire your children, you will need to report these wages to the state, especially if they're over 18, to the state as well as to the federal government quarterly. And when you're reporting it to the federal government, it's Form 940 and 941. So now I'm going to open up for a live Q&A. So be sure to type your questions in the chat. I think I saw a few questions earlier. So I'm just going to kind of scroll up to see if I see those questions again. So Doris asks, what about a grandchild that does not live in my home? So as a business owner, you can still pay your grandchildren. So what's cool about paying your grandchildren, right, is it's a little bit different. So if you decided, and it doesn't matter whether the child lives in your home or not, okay? So when it comes to paying your grandchildren, what you would do is you would kind of have to filter it through the parent. So basically, let's just say, for instance, if my father said, okay, hey, you know what? I want to pay my grandchild, right? Which would be my child. So essentially, the money would go into. So this is what would happen. So even though they're paying the grandchild, essentially the money can go to the parent, which would be me, his immediate child, and the child can spend the money, but my father would actually issue me a 1099, right? So if I also have a business, what I can do is say, okay, well, you know what? I, paid this person to do this, this, and this, and I can actually write it off on the Schedule C as me paying an employee. So now my father pays me and then I pay my child. So now the income is being shifted, but my father is able to write it off saying that, hey, I paid Ambria and now I'm shifting that income to my child. And since I'm going to receive the 1099, since I'm actually paying my child, right? Now that goes into kind of the first scenario that we talked about, paying your child under the age of 18. So now I'm a business owner and I'm paying my child that's under the age of 18, less than that standard deduction amount. So now I'm able to write that off. So I hope that makes sense. But again, this is all just shifting income in different places, y'all. And basically just lowering, your taxable income. Like there are so many ways that you can lower your income, and you can make $1 million and um spend a lot of money on a lot of things and write those things off. So it's all about knowing the tax strategies that will help you as a business owner and benefit your family. So if you got a lot of kids, you make a lot of money in your business, pay those children, all right? A spouse, pay your spouse. Your parents, pay your parents, right? Um, Okay, so she said, I'd like to hire my 4-year-old and 12-year-old and pay them enough to maximize a Roth IRA. Is the max 15,000 still? So the max for 2025 to pay your children is $15,000. So I'm not sure. Are you asking me what is the maximum that you can put into the Roth for 2025? I think it's 7K, but let me make sure. Contribution 2025. It is 7,000. So it's going to remain at $7,000. Yeah. So it's still $7,000 for 2025. Next, how may I see this Zoom again? Is it on YouTube? So it will be posted on my YouTube channel tomorrow, or within like 24 hours. Just give my team a little bit of time to edit it, and it will definitely be on there. So if you were late or you want to go back and jot down some notes, then definitely go to the YouTube channel. So in 2019, right, when I actually found out about this tax strategy before 2019, before I actually implemented it into my business. But I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing, and I had the money to do it, and it made sense, and I wanted to make sure that I did it the right way. So I did it, and I actually taught a master class in 2019. I think we had over 200 people to invest in this master class. And I kept saying, I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back. And as I was thinking of another topic for the fundamentals of finance, I was like, you know what? Oh my God, hiring your children. This is what people need to know about. Business owners. You can create that business before the end of this year if you haven't already. Start paying those kids next year. You're already going to spend money on your kids as it is, right? So I wanted to, get this information out here. Now, I also, if you want more details on the exact forms that you need to file, how you need to file those forms, I have a complete walkthrough. I do have an Etsy store on Etsy. So I have a complete, so basically the masterclass that I did in 2019, it's on Etsy. And I think it's maybe 20 20 bucks. I think right now it's half off. So it may be like $25. So if you guys want to go to the Etsy store to purchase the complete walkthrough of all of this, then feel free to do that. Also so I'm sorry. So I think I got ahead of myself. My apologies. So this is the QR code to scan. We'll also send this out to you as well, but you can scan this QR code. It's actually an ebook as well as a complete walkthrough showing you exactly what it is that you need to do. Unfortunately, I can't, put all of that information, on the Fundamentals of Finance series because we're kind of limited with our time. And I want you guys to be able to have this information because some people, you may decide, okay, well, hey, you know what? I know I want to do this. You may be ready to implement this right now. You may not be ready to implement this until, second quarter of 2025. But the good thing about it is you can always refer back to this information. And the only thing about this stuff that's going to change is whatever the standard deduction is for the tax year. So whether you do it for 2024, 2025, 2026, if you're going to DIY this completely, then all of this information is going to be the exact same other than the actual standard deduction amount for the tax year. Now, I would love for each and every single one of you to give me your feedback. We have a QR code that you can scan to do a survey. Okay. So tomorrow, what will happen is everybody who completed the survey, and if you've already completed the survey, complete the survey again, right? I'm very, very thankful if you are here once again for another of the Fundamental of Finance series. Again, this is something that I really look forward to on Thursdays, just spreading this information, educating individuals. So tell me what you thought about the information that I provided to you, what you would like to see in the future. Again, we're about to start going into funding. So if you are a business owner, make sure you have your business structured properly. If you don't have your business structured properly, I am going to cover that briefly. And then we're going to hop into funding. Like, how can you get those coins? How can you get those lines of credit? How can you get those business credit cards for your business so that you can fund your business? Okay. So make sure you scan that. Tomorrow we will have a giveaway. I think we typically give away a gift card. So if you win, and again, if you've been here before, you completed the survey, complete it again. This may be your opportunity to win. So if so, then we will send that gift card over to you virtually and you can enjoy it. Again, I would love for each and every single one of you to complete this so I can know what I need to do and how I can better serve each and every single one of you. So I think that completes everything for me tonight. If you are interested, I have a Linktree QR code as well. This is the survey QR code. Here, if you want to access more resources, we do have a link that you can get emails about free business or about business grants that you can apply for your business. If you're interested in becoming a client of mine in 2025, we have a link that you can click on, submit your information when we start accepting clients, which will be on January 2nd, 2025. We'll send you an email as well as a text message. Of course, make sure you have all your documents. And if you don't have all your documents, we'll let you know what additional documentation you may need for us to give you a free quote. We offer free quotes. There's no obligation. You don't have to file your taxes with me. If you want to send me your information, I will give you a quote. If you want to move forward with it, that's great. If not, no hard feelings. I'm still going to love you and I'm still going to appreciate you being here, soaking up this knowledge and hopefully sharing it with someone else and implementing this in your business, y'all. Execution is key. As business owners, I talk to a lot of people and a lot of people always say like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And, I have my moments as well too, but execution is always key, y'all. Execution is key. Continuing to talk about it, don't continue to talk about it, just do it, get it done, and move on to the next thing. So that completes everything for me tonight.